Welcome to On Deck. We are charting the course of Marauder Athletics. My name is Dane, a graduate assistant here in the athletics department at Millersville, and I will be your host. Joining me for today's podcast is a very special guest who is newer to the Millersville community, but is focused on improving a program with a very storied history here at Millersville. A well-decorated coach in her respective sport, our guest led Division III Misericordia to the MAC Freedom Conference Championship game in her third year as the head coach of the program, and now aims to do the same with our program in a highly competitive PSAC landscape, a PSAC landscape that she is familiar with herself. Ladies and gentlemen, here with me now is the newly hired women's lacrosse coach at Millersville, Nicole Hinkle. Coach Hinkle, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. First, I want to talk to you about the sport you played, your playing career as a whole, more specifically why you chose the position that you did.
Okay.
So being a goalie, I think a common misconception is that ball is not as hard as it seems to be, but what kind of made you want to step inside the cage in the first place?
So growing up in Maryland, the lacrosse is thrown at you at a very young age. And my youth coach actually was the one that threw me in cage for the first time. He said that I had a really good stick skills, but I was a little bit slower getting up and down the field. So he actually suited me up in cage one day, started throwing tennis balls at me, realizing that I wasn't one to flinch or close my eyes or stray away from the ball. So since I started playing goalie at the youth level, I never picked up a field stick, kind of going through my lacrosse journey. I learned to obviously love it, not afraid to step in front of the ball. Mm-hmm. They always say lacrosse is definitely a different mindset being a goalie in that position. So just something that I ran with all through college. I actually ended up picking up a field stick again my senior year of college playing defense. Okay. So made that transition for one season, and it was just a good journey.
Awesome, yeah, and I think that's where most goalies start in lacrosse. That's where I started. My dad was the coach of my youth team, and it was just kind of like, oh, we need somebody, and you're my son, so hop in it. And then from there, you just kind of fall in love with it. I was very similar. I hopped out of cage for a little bit and picked up a field stick just because I don't want to say bored, that's not correct, right. But just wanted to score the goals rather than stop them.
Sure.
And that lasted about 2 years, and then I was right back in cage. So
right.
All through high school, kind of just stayed in cage. And then obviously in college as well. I mentioned your familiarity with the PSAC landscape, obviously being a assistant coach at Shippensburg before you were at Misericordia. What can you say the most valuable piece of information that you learned from your stint there was? And then how can you kind of apply that now to your, PSAC approach here at Millersville?
Yeah, I think as a coach, that being my first collegiate coaching position, I think I was able to develop very well there. Taking year one to kind of really learn, absorb, take everything in, a lot of watching, a lot of note taking. Going into year two, I was trusted with running the defense there, so there's a lot put on me in those 3 years, but I had good mentorship along the way, so that really helped guide me into eventually wanting to step into a head coaching role. I think also during my time there is when we made the transition of being one whole conference, then splitting, so having that experience of playing every team twice, on top of kind of having the knowledge of some teams in our conference as well. A lot of teams nowadays are still running the same schemes and game plans they were running 5-6 years ago. Yeah. So just the knowledge of the team, having that experience of going into every game twice, really knowing how to game plan for that second go around, and what we need to change from a coaching staff game point to really throw a team off.
Awesome. And then, so obviously now kind of take me into the mind of a coach, but also just your mind and your position here. You got the job at Millersville. It was announced. You are the next head coach of our women's lacrosse team. What did that process look like from there? Was it reaching out to the student athletes that are here now? Was it kind of starting to develop rapport with them? Or obviously Kalena was here as well before you were brought on. So what did that process look like?
Yeah, it was a very quick process. From accepting, I was here on campus in 2 weeks. The ladies were actually already in the heart of their fall ball season, and they already had one play day under their belt. So it really was getting in here, getting to know them right away, but also giving them structure out there on the field. My first day here was an office day, and we also had practice that same day. So just really getting to know the ladies as people and players along the way. Post 2 weeks after being here, we had 2 additional play days as well. So We spent some time implementing some new things to go out there and try and test out. But ultimately, it was a big transition. The ladies just really seek structure in that first month or so that I was here. Also looking to just connect with our alumni, our donors, people that are important to our program, and are important to what we're able to do as a team as well. But it was a quick transition, but the ladies did awesome with it, and it was just a lot of building very, very quickly, a lot of getting to know one another very quickly.
Yeah, and so as a coach, how would you describe the culture that you like to implement? Does it fluctuate from group to group, from team to team? Obviously, you have a ton of different personalities that you're kind of managing and coaching. What would you describe your culture as?
I always say when we step out on the field, your year goes out the window. I think a lot of what I want a culture to be is done through action. So I think our upperclassmen and our seniors, Caitlin and Mary this year, do an awesome job already establishing that. I think culture is just a lot about what you do. Make sure we're staying positive, make sure we're supporting each other, making sure whether we're here on campus or it's the off season, I can trust in that player that the work is going to get done. But ultimately, when we step out in the field, we're thankful that we're out there. We're grateful we get to play the game with our teammates and our coaches out there every single day. But just kind of keeping it positive, keeping it hardworking, creating that friendly, competitive environment each day so that they're pushing themselves and ultimately playing against the best players in the conference each day in practice.
Yeah, awesome. And then speak a little bit about your time in Misericordia. Obviously, like I mentioned, the success that you had there as well, that obviously kind of led you to being here. So what was that kind of experience like?
Yeah. So when I was hired at Misericordia, I was the fourth coach in 4 years. So it was definitely a little bit of a rebuild. However, we were shaping the athletes that we wanted during that time there. We were getting really good people in there first. I think that was a big focus point of our recruiting classes. Is we were recruiting good people that were going to make a difference on our community, on our campus, within our team as well. With having that success, kind of that year 2 and 3, ultimately was building confidence in our players. A lot of the players that we absorbed in our recruiting process said that my club coach said I couldn't do this because of this. My high school coach said I couldn't do this because of this. But instilling them that I have trust in them as players really gave them the confidence to, have that spark hit them in the fall and then really carry into the spring. I'm not very much of a yeller, so just really helping them work through issues, really giving them solutions, having hard conversations and being able to come out on top of it, I think was really what got us over that kind of hurdle and make it to that championship, especially in that second year.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I think that's important to note because the student athletes that you're getting, they are being told certain things by club coaches and high school coaches that play a bigger part on their lives and on their mental than I think we kind of think. Obviously, you do have some players that just know they have it and know that they can go out on the field and perform, but there are some coaches that aren't as good in high school and as good in the club level that kind of can play with confidence a little bit. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. As far as what you've kind of done here, are you just kind of implementing that same approach with Millersville? Obviously you came, there was a freshman class already coming in, and then you obviously had your senior leadership and stuff like that already.
Yeah, I think definitely a lot of the same aspects. I think kind of my idea of what builds a good foundation for myself has really been set in stone over the last couple of years and really created that myself. Working with the ladies here, just first and foremost, let them know that I care about them. I think that's kind of what you can do at the end of the day is make sure you're there for your players. I find that once you build that trust with them, you can coach them way harder. The players that you don't really see in your office too much, don't swing by and just get to know each other as a person, they're the ones that when you really coach them harder, they're like, oh my gosh, she's always so negative to me, or she's oh, my name's always in her mouth. But at the end of the day, if they know that I'm coming from a good place, they're going to take my criticism so much better. So I think that's definitely the foundation that we're trying to do here. And it might be game planning different things for different players. And I think once they see you caring about them and putting in the time to develop them and get to know each of them, then that's when that trust and that development really can take off.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned recruiting a little bit. So you do happen to be in a pretty good spot, kind of like a hotbed for recruits. Obviously, like you mentioned, you're kind of recruiting the person more or less than the player so that you can coach the player. But what is your message to some prospective athletes, specifically, obviously, the women's lacrosse players who are interested in playing at the next level?
Yeah. I think just keep in mind that everyone's on their own journey. I think we're such a sport now where there's so much pressure to make that commitment so early. A lot of stress when teammates are committing and you can't be that person to say, oh, I'm going here, next fall. So just trust your journey, trust your process, get to all your campuses. I would suggest meeting the team and the coaching staff as much as you can. Ultimately, we see the ladies for about 2-3 hours a day, but their family is their team, and that's who they're studying with, going to the dining hall with, doing all the extra things. So keep in mind you're in your own journey, and ultimately mistakes are going to happen along the way. Just looking for the ultimate grit of a player that can recover physically, recover mentally, and get up and down the field. But I think a lot of it goes off the field first, and then we really look at it on the field as well.
Awesome. And then what does that kind of recruiting trail look like now for you? Obviously, the season's approaching probably quicker than you feel like it is, but what does that kind of look like? Do you have tournaments over the winter break that you're going to? And then is there recruiting in the spring as much or no?
Not so much. We're in a really good location to get to some high school games as well, which is something that I never had the chance to do, just with recruiting athletes from 3+ hours away. Now being an hour and a half, 2 hours, we can definitely get to high school games. We were grateful enough to go to 4 tournaments this fall, so definitely able to evaluate that 27 and try to see where 28s are as well. Over the winter, there are some things happening at the Nook, so we'll be showing up there, and when spring hits, mostly focusing kind of on us and then those high school players we can get to.
Yeah, awesome. So focusing on you guys, what is kind of the goal that you have in mind for the team this year so far? Obviously being around them now for half a semester hasn't been too long, but what are kind of some of those goals for you?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately getting back to playoffs. The ladies seeing that light last year and seeing that when they put in the hard work, on the flip side, it's going to pay off. So their mindset right now is exactly that. So playoffs for sure. Right now we're in the heart of kind of grinding as an individual. So kind of our goal coming back from winter break is that everyone really checked off the individual box. I think that as a coaching staff and as a team helps us truly develop and get better as we go along through the spring. But ultimately, I want to see us really peaking in April. I don't want us to peak in February because then we have a long season ahead of us. So definitely learning, growing February, kind of start of our conference play, but then making sure that we're peaking at the right time and we're finishing at our strongest at the best time.
Awesome. And then one final kind of just overall question I have for you. What has the difference kind of been like going from a Division III school to a Division II school, specifically with recruiting and the fact that there is scholarship and just kind of the differences there?
Yeah, right. I think we're able to really attract and solidify those elite athletes. I think like so much of our athletes these days, they want to say they're going to a scholarship school. So that was a reason we were losing some of those ladies at the Division III level, no matter if it was $1,000 or $2,000 going to them. But I think here, I love the competitiveness of our conference, of our academics. So just attracting more ladies in general. I'm getting about 40 to 50% more emails than I was at the Division III level. I think our location has a lot to do with it. But ultimately, I think you can recruit the same person to D2, D3, just tailoring kind of their needs and what you guys have to offer to your program is kind of the key at the end of the day for any division.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. That is all for today's episode. If you enjoyed this week's episode and want more, be sure to follow us on Instagram and X at Ville Marauders and check out our podcast page on our Maine Athletics website for video and audio of today's recording. That link will be in the description of this video. As always, thank you for coming aboard the deck with us today. Until next time, anchors away and go Ville.
Thank you.